So we're here to solve this Yajisan Kazusan puzzle by Serkan Yürekli called Quarters, with the clues cleanly in the upper left and lower right of the grid. Some of these will be true, many of them will be false. We'll have to figure out which are which. This is a style originally published by Nikoli and has some interesting deductions to it, particularly if you push the difficulty to the extremes. But one of the traits early in this puzzle is figuring out where to get started, what clues might not be true or might be near a clue that's false. And so I try to look for paired cells where I can quickly intuit that one of them is shaded. Like actually one to the left is such an example. Either this one to the left is a true clue, and so this cell to the left is shaded, or it's not a true clue and the clue is shaded. This one down looks to be the same. Another thing to look for are clues that have the same arrow direction that are adjacent. So 2 to the right, 0 to the right cannot be compatible. That's not to say that like 2 to the right here and some other clue here couldn't be compatible. Actually, this 2 to the right and 0 to the right can't both be compatible. You can't get two cells here, but 2 up, 1 up here has that same issue. 2 up, 1 up here does not, because we could shade in this and then shade another up here, and those clues work together. So it's the adjacent clues that matter most, and you get this marking, which is an either or. 3 left, 2 left looks like that. 5 up, 3 up looks like that. 1 right, 2 right looks like that. Seeing if there's anything else before we start to work off some of those placements. 2 down, 1 down looks like that. So this is a good place to start. And I think it's because this 3 down clue is a really forcing clue. It only has enough space for these to go. And notice if I put in the square, the other x's move around and I isolate parts of the grid. So my first shading for sure is that 3 down is false. That means the 2 down is true, which means this 3 down up above could be true as long as one of these is shaded. The 1 up could be true as long as one of the ones there is shaded. So we've got some tension starting there. This 2 left that now points into this 1 shaded clue has potential if one of these gets marked in. So maybe still a little to work through there, but some start from what we've now marked through. Another place where this is shaded down in a corner, this cell is always true because either this is shaded and so this connects out, or this is shaded and that cell is adjacent to that. So can we do something off this cell? It may come from seeing actually another constraint, which is I can't take this as a shaded cell because I then isolate these. So how these x's point into each other, this stays as unshaded, which means now this 1 down clue has a constraint like this for it. And now we're actually getting a pretty big circuit of things that must be true. So where all these interact, I think this 2 right clue, similar to like this 3 down clue, has a constraint around it where having both of those be true will actually force this, and that causes a few issues, one of which for sure is that this one cell is isolated on its own. So here we're again learning that the 2 down is false, which means the 1 to the right is true. So these are now a fulfilled clue. This coming down means this is shaded. This 3 to the right is true. This 3 up is true. So the 5 up must be false. So we're getting that there's 2 more to the left here, 2 more to the left here. Those all look credible. If 2 up is true, there's only 1 more coming up this column. So this 3 up is no good. These can propagate. 3 up here being a forced true clue is going to put in another shaded ladder. This 2 to the left being good means this 3 to the left is false. That 2 down is fulfilled. That looks fine. 2 to the right being true forces this to be shaded. 3 left marked off. So we have 1 more shaded in here to think through, and still some opportunities for these clues to really process. This lower right part of the grid is getting somewhat isolated, so it's got to have some connection through the cell, or it's going to get removed from the rest of the grid. So we can put this pattern in. That now means the single cell left in this column is there, and we've actually finished those rightmost columns. That now is going to put a lot of constraints on these pointing to the right clues, including in saying that this 0 to the right is false. So putting that in means that the 2 to the right is true, this 2 to the left is true, which puts in these cells that will have to be shaded. If this cell is shaded, this 3 down, then this 2 to the right is actually looking at 3 to the right. So here's a case where this has to be true so that we don't have a contradiction. If this 2 is now shaded, it forces a problem there. So this is a true clue. Don't know more than that at the moment, but still useful progress. Looks like we have another case with this 2 left clue. I'm looking at clues that kind of quickly force shadings. These shadings get pushed in. The X's I have in the grid are giving me a mental picture that I'm now isolating that corner. So this 2 to the left is false, which means I move this X here, move this X here. This 3 down has to be true. 1 up has to be true. 1 to the right is forcing this. 2 down, 3 down, 3 down is forcing this pattern. 2 down is true, we can handle. 2 up can no longer be true because there's only one cell above, so these are marked in, so that puts in another X here. This 2 down is going to say there's an X in one of these 3 cells, another in the next set of 3 cells. So some more to work through with those. I've shaded off so that this 3 to the right has to be true, so this is a shaded cell. This here must be marked. If this 2 to the right is true, then this is shaded. If not, the clue itself is shaded, so we've got another X we can mark in here, and now here's a place where this X, if shaded, forces the X below to isolate a cell, so this is actually over here. Means the 2 to the left is true. That looks fine. That finishes this pattern up top, so we're getting some okay steps there. Let's sort of see where we're at. We haven't finished out this corner, but actually this corner is set once we know this 2 up is true. We can't have another shaded cell near it, so lower right corner's there. I think all that's now remaining is just working through the constraints we have here. 2 down from this clue being true means 2 more cells in here. Notice connectivity is going to require coming through the space, and so where there's an option that shuts off the grid and an option that leaves it open, the one that leaves it open is the one we have to use. That marks in all of these. We need to get this 2 down to be true, so we need another shaded cell. This is now another isolated bit if it doesn't get out, so where I have 2 more to place, and it looks from this, I've got 1 here and 1 here to place from 2 left. I'm going to have to keep this open. That looks like this. Put this into the grid, and if I check the constraints, 2 to the left is fulfilled, 2 down is fulfilled, everything else is marked off. So worked our way through the Saturday puzzle. It might have looked a little rough in spots, and it did use some look ahead in spots, but that's pretty typical for this style where you try to see the most forced shadings, particularly if this notation with these X's that suggests cells that will be one or the other shaded for sure. That's where you can figure out where you're getting isolation of the grid or other key constraints. So hopefully you got something from this video. If not, definitely encourage you to start more from the easier side of Yajisan Kazusan, whether with puzzles we posted before or with the puzzles that Prasan has written for the Shading Variety Collection. So we're through this variety week, but hopefully you got a great sense of the styles that are in that book, and we encourage you to check it out. Thanks, we'll see you again soon.